It's War Day, and we're back with the stats and the facts with the green tide and its rise. Like always, we like to start with the Meta Monday, and we'll go over 40K stats as well. We like to go over how the Orks are doing overall as a faction as a whole, and then we'll jump into the top performing lists. So that being said, we had 13 Orc players. Let me show you the top of this in case you're not familiar. You can look this up yourself on Meta Monday. It's pretty awesome. So right here, weekend win rate, and then 6 win rate, the last 6 win rate in the last 6 weeks. Orcs are sitting, sorry, I passed them up, at a 54% win rate this last weekend. We have one win, top win, that was Sean Nayden's list, which we will go over. A lot of questions in that list, and then how we've actually been doing. So in the last 6 weeks, it shows 48% win rate. I think if you take since the post data slate win rate, it was about 52% win rate, I believe. So yeah, and there's 3 lists we're gonna go over this weekend. So that's how Orcs are doing as a whole. Just so you guys can get a little perspective here. If you look at that, Chaos Space Marines is like 69%. Adeptus Mechanicus, it's silly, but there's only one player, so you can't look at that. That's why it's good to look over this thing as a whole. Leagues of Voltan with 10 players, we had 13 as Orcs with a 59. So when people are wondering where we're going to be when it comes to the actual nerf hammer, this is why I'm not really that worried. Even though Orcs do great as a whole, like we're doing great in how we're performing in GT level and RTT level, the thing is, when people look at the meta, they don't go out there and go, oh, here comes the wall. If anything, people don't see us coming and don't think about it. And that's something we can go over when we look at how Sean Nayden did in his list, because lucky for us, we can actually see his last game because Tactical Tour displayed it on the live stream. So with that being said, we can another thing I like to look at here. This is 40K stats off Goonhammer, right? So this is GT mission pack, what I chose, and then 915. So this is around a week after the data slate, up to pretty much yesterday, right? Again, we see Astromel as the #1 hardest matchup for Orcs, okay? We've talked about that a few times. We'll go over it again, but then Death Guard right away, making an interesting rate. Now, this percent win rate, we'll look at this more as the book comes out and we see more things, but this has been interesting this whole time. We'll see what's going on there. Tyranids, again, 45. So this win rate has been plummeting more and more, actually. Leagues of Voltan, this has actually gone up, but Leagues of Voltan has been a hard matchup for us as a whole. We can go into that as we actually go matchups, because that's one of the people we had to go through this week. Eldar, everybody knows Eldar is super powerful. Custodes, so even though they dropped in power overall as a faction, because people are like, oh, I can just dev wound them to death, right? We don't dev wound from shooting people across the map, which is what hurts Custodes. We have to actually interact with them. A lot of their rules are still very powerful for melee combat. Still variable win a matchup for us, in my opinion, but if you look at the win rate as a whole, Orc players, if you're newer, will struggle with this because they have a lot of activations thing we can go over. Another list, we can actually look over Custodes because some of our winners had to play them. Black Templars. So Orcs, this is what I want, and I'll stop here after this, but Black Templars is one of those sub-factions of Space Marines that's really scaring everybody right now. Their combined arms is very effective for the fact that they all have actual data sheets to fight effectively, as well as they have like the Sword Brethren, right? We know they can get one. I think they get damage, they can get +1 damage or +1 attack, something like that. And then on all their data sheet, I think there's data sheet ability. And then also all their vehicles get Meltus. So when you pick Iron Storm, you're pretty much playing Iron Hands and Black Templars as once. And why this win rate isn't worse for Orcs, in my opinion, is because we're pretty good at just dealing with power armor as a whole, even though that's contradictory to what people think. Whoa. I know about Armor of Contempt. Relax. I do. I promise you. But as the numbers are showing here, we actually don't struggle horribly into too many Armor of Contempt armies, Leagues of Voltan, and then Tyranid's only one of their detachments is kind of that exception. But really, even though it's hard in the casual level to deal with Space Marines and Armor of Contempt, the top level and then performing at tournaments, people kind of start figuring this out. And Orcs really do not have horrible strats and tools into beating Space Marines, because most Space Marines are actually tooled to deal with shooting people and people trying to shoot them and then getting stuck into combat. So we end up trading with them pretty well. But the Astra Militara matchup is difficult because their indirect is very effective. Normally, their small arms fire and their tank fire, their weakness is that they lack AP. Against us, they don't lack that AP. Orcs don't have great armor saves. They have enough trading and small pieces to kind of gunk us up, keep respawning stuff. They'll drop things in. They like to do fixed secondaries as well. And normally we're giving up a secondary, like we'll give up Bring It Down, or we'll give up Assassinate. So we're giving them one, and then they're going to try to do another one. So normally as Orcs, we go to look and we're like, we're going to kill your scoring units. Astromo Time's like, go ahead, I'm just going to bring it back and then score against it again. So that's another thing there. Death Guard being able to stack -1 weapon skill / ballistic skill on top of -1 to hit with Nurgling allies is a difficult matchup. They have fight first, they have lethal, they have odd toughness, so it actually bothers us in some of our combat phases and such. So yeah, And then Tyranids, we could talk about that, but they have a bunch of different detachments that are powerful. So that's interesting. Everybody pay attention to that as we go over the list. But before I go over Sean Nayden's list, because that's the one I want to start with, because there's a lot of information there and it's very beautiful, I want to look at the chat. So let me get a whoa in the chat. And if you don't mind, let me get some orc boys and some grots in the chat, right? Everybody with the wall daggers with the little frogs, because he still doesn't have the badges. Sorry, my Aussie friend, or a UK friend, sorry. I'm here for the beat off. You're a little early and you got to find someone to do it with. Whoa, with the war boss badges. That's what I'm talking about. Surprise, World Eaters isn't higher. We're actually talking about World Eaters and why, in my opinion, Orks do casually good into them, but why on the competitive level they're difficult, because that's something we're going to look over with these people that had a lot of matchups into them too. Whoa! And then, oh, you kind of was the wall. I think you were trying to say. So let me get all my walls out. Everybody, let me get some badges. I see some of you members are here. Drop them Orc boys. So Sean Nayden's list. This is beautiful. So we'll go Winter ITC major event. So this is a very big event. It's about 74 players. Sorry, my math is horrible. So very impressive in America. It was only 5 rounds, which is kind of interesting for a major, but hey, I guess it's normal. So here we go. These are the top 3. Brad Chester right here is actually, we're going to get an interview with him. I know he's playing Ultramarine now. Bad trader. But he is going to do an interview with us, supposedly. So that'll be awesome. And we can talk about Orks because he was doing quite well. Tyranids is number 2, and then number 1 is Sean Nayden. So let's take a look at Sean Nayden's list, which I'm sure some of you have seen, but we'll talk about what I think. And this funny, I think Tactical Tortoise or someone went over this and they pulled up this link and it was some dudes like, never gonna lift you up. After I seen him on the Tactical Tortoise live stream, I understand why he put that. He's a very funny kind of hipster kind of guy. So shout out to Sean Nayden. Now let's go over his list. So Beastboss on Squigasaur with Edwapis Kill Choppa. You guys always hear me say I like it more on the knob, but it's perfectly fine on him as well, especially if you're not bringing a knob, which you'll see he did not. Ghazghkull Thraka, of course. I'm a big believer in Gaz now. I took him to an RTT. I've been using him here and there. He's awesome, but he does take a little bit of understanding and not overcomplicating of what he does. Moz, always Moz, best bet data sheet. Knob with the wall banner. So if you've ever been paying attention to this channel for a while, I've loved the knob with wall banner. He's fantastic, but he does take some skill and understanding to use, because you're really just understanding the movement phase with that and what that he brings with the Big Baba boys, which we'll go into. He has 1, 2, 3 war bosses. I believe this war boss was Follow Me Lads, was in the big brick of 20 boys. And then he has 2 normal war bosses. And then boom, the awesome finesse, beautiful piece that we all like to see was the war boss in mega armor with super cyborg body. Some of you might be thinking, well, isn't that redundant? He gets that as his data sheet ability. Well, mind you, it sucks. It's just a data sheet ability. And he has a lot of wounds for what he is in toughness. So he's actually a great choice for that. If the Death Kill War checks the best, then he's probably second. So I really like to see that, especially because the unit isn't going to be that big. So I love it, love it. Now we got the big unit of the boys. Only 1 truck. Love that. Keep in mind, guys, this, like I always say, Orcs players, you're gonna give up, bring it down, or assassinate. Try not to bring both, because then the enemy gets a straightforward game plan. Sean thought of that, of course, because he's excellent. Only 1 truck on this list and 1 battle wagon, right? Because you got to deal with the Beast Boss, Maz, battle wagon, and then put all the points together. So just not enough to pick as a secondary. So 1 battle wagon, I love it. 1, 2 Gretchen units. We'll talk about how he used those. Different than what most casual people would probably use them, right? 1 3-man unit Mega Knobs, 1 2-man unit. I'll tell you, because the stream showed. The 3-man unit goes with the war boss, and the 2-man unit goes with Gaz. This 3-man unit that goes with the war boss, from the game I seen, he put it in strategic reserve, which makes sense. They're slow. He doesn't have a transport for them. 2 5-man units of what we call the Scalpel unit, the knobs with the war boss, right? He decided to bring a smaller unit of it. We've seen that all throughout the meta, and it's because multiple activations, the war boss with -1 to wound makes the damage kind of odd. And even if you kill most of the unit, the war boss plus 1 or 2 knobs still goes off. And you get to kind of string it out instead of just throwing 1 giant brick out for people to trade with. You kind of get to kill people in small skirmishes. So I love that. And then only 2 war biker units, no storm boys, 0 Storm boys. So he's a little bit against the meta. Of course, we see no Squigasaur boys and no flashiest of the gits. So keep that in mind. I think people kind of got sick of the -1 AP for the flashiest gits. Also, I think Sean just wants to play the way he wants to play. From what Art of War, because I think Art of War covered this. Quentin, he's not an orc player, so he was kind of not understanding everything that goes over here, but we'll go over it. And Tactical Horde skimmed this, so we can go into it a lot more because I love this. I was running the Knob Water Banner earlier, but I think it takes a skilled player because you can get shot. The difference is he was willing to make this a super expensive package by being a Knob with Wall Banner plus a War Boss with the most expensive enhancement and the Battle Wagon. Yep, he definitely put the boys in the Battle Wagon. So let's go into his matchups. That way we can kind of go on a rant because I've been thinking about this list for a minute and I really appreciate it. Shout out to Sean. So his first matchup right off the bat is Chaos Space Marines, the menace of the event. So we have a Chaos Lord with the Mark of Khorne and Pantsman of Burning Blood, Chaos Lord and Chaos Lord. So this is their iteration of a War Boss. They essentially want him to go off with the unit that they're in of Legionnaires and become similar to how we use the War Boss in the Knob 5-man Knob unit. 1 unit of Cult Mobus. Sorry guys, I actually getting over a cold, so I'm coughing randomly. I'm sorry for anybody listening. I'll look away. 1 Legionnaire unit, Chaos Rhino, Chaos Rhino, Chaos Rhino, a unit of Chosen, a unit of Chosen. Chosen are excellent, and then either the Chosen. So this is where the Lords were going, of course, because they benefit from each other's data sheet abilities. A Forge Fiend with Ectoplasma. Really don't love to see that as an Orc player. They have great profile into most of our things, but hey, whatever. And then they're going to see this is what I mean, that they build to be against other shooting armies for the most part. Whenever you're going to see these powered armies, think about what they're looking at and fighting into them is they're thinking about someone's going to shoot at them with anti-tank high IP weapons, and then they're going to get into combat with them. We don't deal with that. So we play, they don't build into what we do. 2 2-man units of Obliterators, 2 Nurg units, Rubric Squad, which is pretty interesting, right? You probably just wanted the Flamers, and then another one with the Flamers, and then Blue Scribe for secondary. So an interesting twist on the allies. Nurglings are excellent. It really comes down to how this person chooses to use them, right? They could just run up and decide, I'm going to try to slow you and move block you, but then you give Orks a possible turn 1 charge. They could sit in there and actually add for durability for their -1 hit ability by standing near you. But something that you can pull out here is even with between shooting and fighting, there's not enough activations to reliably kill and halt the green tide, right? Think about, you got a Mozrog, you got a Beastboss and Squigasaur, you got Ghaz, and you got a Battle Wagon full of 20 boys. The boys are not only used as a, I can run up with Ghaz, because in tandem, for the most part, what is the boy mob doing? The boy mob is a tool, not necessarily a hammer, but it is a tool that could be used in a multitude of ways. Let's think of it as like an e-tool or a trench tool, right? Let's say I can use it to cut out an enemy unit by running my boys in, letting them be near Ghaz, using Unbridled Carnage for critical 5s. That way I have sustain 5s, lethal 5s, and just compound that into being able to punch up into units, demolish multiple different kind of enemy units that are hordes or even somewhat elite infantry. You could choose, I'm going to out OC you. I'm going to take over this corner of the board so you can't drop and get within range of me, Mr. Annoying Grey Knight Paladin, stuff like that. Like, there's so many different ways you can go and tag you. I can charge 1 unit, then use my extra movement to swing a little bit to the other direction and start move blocking people in other ways. Like, that is a high level weapon, the tool in itself, and most people don't even prioritize it. So they'll prioritize, I'm going to go try to run into Maz. I'm going to try to run into Ghaz. I'm going to shoot maybe a Beastboss on Squigasaur with the indirect if I can. I'm going to try to pop your truck. I have to deal with your knobs and try to kill them. Like, there's so many things that they can activate while you're still hiding that you're still creeping up the board. They're going to end up charging into you and end up dying in certain trade. Ghaz ends up having a great profile into the Chosen because he's a flat damage 4. So you can end up picking them up. And then even then, like I said, when you have the sustain / lethal, you can actually punch out the Chosen with even the unit of boys. For the most part, rhinos would be annoying, but that's where you can come up in there and decide, hey, Mega Knobs are actually a kind of unit that could kill rhinos if they're both contesting for an objective later in the game. They could just sit there and be like, hey, I might suck at hitting, but I'm reliably wounding you and clearing you off the objective with all my AP, because mind you, there's still Mega Knobs on this list. The Mega Knobs have that AP and reroll wounds so that, sure, they might take 2 fight phases, right? So your turn and the opposing player's turn, blah, 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 back and forth. But they can actually pull down certain vehicles that sometimes knobs might end up just dying because they don't have enough strength or enough AP, and small arms fire while they're in combat. They could kill shot. Mega Knobs can actually stay there on the objective and fight it and kill some of these units, or charge into them as countercharging by strategic reserving into the battlefield. So when it comes into this, we end up trading with Space Marines a little too well in CSM, and that's how we end up winning those lists. And you just see that we overwhelm them. They're shooting and thinking, I do this very well. Sure, you can overkill 1 unit really well, but who's killing the bikers while I'm scoring? Who's popping my truck? Da-da-da. And they continue to activate. We continue to keep going forward because he's a weird, odd mixture of very durable units with like a bunch of OC and chaff to run around. The Ork list I'm talking about. So because remember, he has the Grots and the Unit of Voids, which he does use the Grots in an offensive manner, like he runs up the field with them. So we have Space Wolf with the Storm Lance. So we got the Lieutenant with Combi Bolter, Wolf Lord on Thunderwolf, and then other Wolf Lord on Thunderwolf, a Devastator squad. Okay, cool. I'm sorry. Another unit of Devastator squad, Fenrisian Wolf, 3 Fenrisian Wolves, Gladiator Lancer, Reaper, Inceptor, Infiltrators, Scouts. Okay, there. I was like, man, where's the Thunderwolf Cavalry? Here's a 1, 2, 3 bricks of Thunderwolf Cavalry. I've played into a similar iteration of this list, not the exact, right? You know what's coming here. Gladiator Lancer staying in the back. Fenrisian Wolves are to run around and do activations, maybe screen with the Scouts. You got the Devastators. The iteration I played against, you have Redemptor Dreadnoughts. This guy chose for like more small units, which I could see being very useful because this list kind of usually runs out of activations when you have so many Thunderwolf Cavalry. And you do need to start a little quicker up the board. You need stuff that can move, don't get in the way of Thunderwolf Cavalry. But they themselves get in the way. There's such huge bases and such. So Orks in this advantage is as long as you are doing your placements correctly on your units, like I'm going to make sure you can make a charge into my models when I disembark because I'm this far away and behind of a building. Once you shot me with your Gladiator, I pre-measured it so that once you move, hopefully you can get into it. And if you do, I have a heroic intervention from Ghazghkull over here that if you run around that corner with your auto advance, I can heroic with Gaz or something like that where you can kind of stage units or you can actually get the initiative on them because you are fast running through buildings. Now, you do have to keep in mind they have reactive moves you're going to have to deal with. But the way you really kind of dismantle this army is you start killing its scoring units. You don't let the Inceptors kind of drop wherever they want. And if they do drop where they're going to, make sure you have something that can get in there and kill them after. I played into this. It does have its things that it can do, but they don't. And in my opinion, you want to charge them or tag them, consolidate and touch them because their greatest buffs come when they actually get the charges off, right? But Orks do have the amount of damage to kind of deal with them. And when you're dealing with those big units of Ork boys and mobs, you can actually punch them out when you're doing lethal, sustain, and you're going to beat them on OC. It's a weird kind of complex move there. So this would be a fun game to kind of witness. But overall, it's just the Thunderwolf Cavs end up being like too encumbersome at the top levels of the game. Usually you can see Sean put up 97, 94, 96, 84, 81. So he started off hot, slowly went back a little bit on the score. His next list he had to deal with, what is this? Dark Angels Vanguard. Okay, so Vanguard, I actually I think the Vanguard's pretty cool. Not that I play Space Marines, but looking over all their rules, everything that's going on, they have, let me go this list real quick. Asriel, and remember how I was just talking about the meta as a whole, guys, keep in mind, wants to shoot. We always talk about that on the channel. 40K is based off a far-flung future where everybody has guns and we're hitting them with axes, right? So when you see one of these lists, no, for the most part, they're planning to not be shot, and we'll go over why. They do usually have combat potential, just letting you know. In mind, that's how they're building their list. Keep that in mind when you see these themes of these lists. So we got Asriel. That's a great kind of support character and fighty-ish. Chaplain and Terminator armor, Lieutenant with a combi weapon. So let's see what this list looks like. We got an Intercessor squad, a Centurion Devastator squad. So this is they have a strat that they can compound. I believe they get like +1 to hit and +1 AP on that when they come in from reserves. Plus they have strats that they can be pulled off the table, put back on the table for the Centurion Devastator squad. Plus the fact that they're durable and have a 2-up armor save. So they're stacking the innate durability buffs that they're getting for being in Vanguard detachment. So they're getting movement, they're getting defense, and they're getting offense, all from being in the Vanguard detachment, which is what the Centurions are doing. We had a Deathwing Knight squad, right? These guys are great. They can like reduce damage. They're going to consistently be able to hold objectives and try to have the auto C there, stay alive. This is one of those units, and they're going to, for the most part, try to get up the board quicker. Let's see if they have the blade driven deep. Yeah, so the chaplain's going to be stuck in there. I believe he gives them like +1 to wound and defense to mortal wounds. That way they can't be murdered with mortal wound potential, and they get to start up the board quicker. So Orks pay attention to that. Sorry. These lists, for the most part, have set game plans that they're already trying to do when they're Vanguard because they think they can just outmaneuver you at every part of the game reactionary. So we got Inceptors with Plasma, Infiltrators, Scouts, Gladiator Lancer, and the Caladius Assassin, right? So with Sean Nayden's list, one of his strengths is one, is you can end up using, let's say, the Grots or the Orc Boys, whatever it may be. You can charge into the units of Terminators if you have to. Pull enough of them away from the unit that you want to actually be fighting. And they not enough of their models can pile in and fight who they want to fight. They have to fight your boys or they have to fight your Grots. And then your knobs or your mega knobs or your Ghaz or whatever it may be can all end up kind of swamping and touching different kind of models, so less guys can fight until they want, so they can get in engaged combat. But the real way I see you kind of dealing with this unit army is to, as you're playing with that mob, you're kind of swarming and taking over, contesting that side of the board. I would have liked to see how it actually goes, but to contesting so they can't just reappear onto these objectives, can't just reappear and scoring their secondaries. Every time they're coming on their field, something like a 5-man knobs, a war boss unit is running out and picking up one of their scoring potential units. Maybe a beast boss of Squigasaur is going and touching things constantly. You're just make sure you control and hold all the objectives, put multiple units down, right? You have to deal with a Moz and a beast boss and Squigasaur and a Ghaz on top of everything. And if Ghaz ends up getting stuck in with something like a Centurion squad, he's one of the few data sheets that can actually start punching them out in a somewhat reliable manner. Or even the Terminators. Normally, they don't have to deal with Orcs that have actual multi-damage profiles. So you tag that unit with maybe some Grots, that big unit of boys. The boys are getting their awesome strat abilities off. Maybe Ghaz still has his bodyguards, has devastating wounds that he gets to get off when he gets on the charge with the Terminators he's with. So there's a lot of ways when you have Ghaz, Moz, and all these multi-damage that you can actually deal with this Vanguard unit. And you have crazy OC potential. So you can see he can auto see you if he has to on some parts of the table. He can skirmish with you with the knobs and the war boss if he has to in parts of the table. And then he can just straight run damage into you with between Moz and Ghaz and popping lethal flash sustain on somebody. So going into, what was that? That was the third one, right? Before I messed that up, I looked away. Yeah, so that's his fourth matchup. So I'm a big fan of this knob wall banner list, to be honest. Like, don't be surprised if I tell you it ran it one time or some iteration of it. So Eldar, we'll go over this quick because they're boring. Altarg, Wayleaper, Avatar of King, Farseer, Fugan trying to come up. These two guys will be trying to get up because that's what they can do based off that enhancement. The Warlock, Skyrunner, Falcon, Fire Dragons. Oh, that's fun. Okay, Fire Dragons. Hey, what's up? Night Spinner, Rangers, Shadow Specters, Runners, Swooping Hawks, Warp Spiders, Wind Riders. I don't know a mission they played. Wait, did this? Yeah, I was like, did I mess that up? I didn't. Okay. I don't know a mission they played. I'd really like to know, but one thing I did come into understanding is, one, we are fast enough to give Eldar some bothersome issues. Two, based off the mission, they do eventually have to come to the objectives. Even a diminished unit of Orcs can punch out most Eldar units. They could be taken down to just a war boss and a knob, and they're destroying most Eldar units. So Orcs just kind of end up occupying the table. It's like, yeah, you can do all these Willow shenanigans, but at some point you have to be on the objective. At some point, I am going to get to some of your units to start killing them, and you're not going to have enough shooting with volume at medium. We'll call it medium, mid-strength level, and a good volume to clear us out effectively enough. And then sometimes the Eldar player might make mistakes and start charging you because they're like, I don't know how else to get you off the objective, because they do have, something like, where was he? We did the Avatar. Yeah, they have like the Avatar here that might come contest you, but Ghaz is one of the units that can actually kill him, especially if he gets support from other models. So yeah, great job there killing Eldar. But you can see it was a second lowest scoring game. And then his last game was into CSM. So this is the game that was on stream for on Tactical Tortoise, right? It was the second game. Mind you, one thing I should have said earlier, sorry, is Sean Nayden said in a funny way on stream, but to him, he said he always takes fixed secondaries. He never takes tactical cards. He said he doesn't own a pack. Mind you, we are not Sean Nayden, and we don't all have to play like that, and it is a different way of playing. Some high-end players say they would only use cards. Some people say don't use them at all. I've been advising to use the cards because I think it's a more direct way to play with Orcs. But the fixed is totally possible too. You just got to build it into your list with hindsight, and I think I might go over that. So anyways, we'll say, and what he was bringing was deploy homers, and then he would pick something. I think in this one he probably bring it down, just in this matchup. So we have a Chaos Lord, Cultist, Legionnaire, Chaos Rhino, Chosen, 2 Forge Fiends, 3 Obliterate squads. Somewhat similar to the other unit we've seen. So I'll sum this one up as a whole. So they played a 4 objective mission where the middle one was gone, right? So I'm trying to summarize it in a contested, interesting way. You know, the biggest mistake that I would say if you haven't ruined the game is, I would say, I don't want to ruin it for you because you can go back and watch, but the Chaos Space Marine player, because like I said, they don't have enough activations with their shooting, even though they have really high, we'll say, efficiency in shooting. They don't have a lot of activations in their shooting. And sometimes they don't kill enough orcs, so they start getting a little preemptively charging into you because CSM is used to people not wanting to fight them, right? So in some ways we can fight in death and kind of mess with them. We might just survive their fight and end up hitting them back with like the remnant remains of our unit and still kill some of their models. I'm not saying that happened in this game, but I'm saying keep that in mind for what's happening with them. So in this game, the Chaos Marine player did end up getting a little too kind of eager and making charges that he shouldn't have, I would say, and didn't understand how many activations it would take to kind of deal with orcs. And the 4 objective mission, when you're dealing with a 20-man unit of boys with all that OC, right? It was just too much for the Chaos Space Marine player to kind of chew through. So, and that as a whole, something like Gas, like I said, can end up punching out Chosen. You still have to deal with Maz. So the person has to deal with, do I use all of my effective shooting assets to hopefully kill Maz? Do I have it to hopefully kill the Beast Boss and Squigasaur? Do I pop the battle wagon? Can I even get the boys once they disembark? Do I kill Gaz now? Does Makari go off, or does he just roll the 1 on the end, a 1 right off the bat, and I actually get to kill Gaz? There's so many like very effective things that you're trying to kill that if you don't kill them, that the player is kind of ready on the back foot. But if they do, you still have so much other stuff to deal with. And that's why it's not really that surprising that Sean Nayden was actually able to beat CSM twice in this event, because it's just another version of kind of how Space Marines are, but they actually want to get stuck in combat even more and lack some of that medium potential shooting, right? You could say, I'm going to use the Obliterators using direct fire. It's only once in the game, but that's 24-inch range, and they move very slow. You're going to get in charge of combat with them. You're going to be there for Orc to charge you now, most likely, and you're within 24-inch range, which ends up happening, and you don't even have OC to contest objectives. Think about all these units. Where's the OC? Where's the OC? Right? That 20-man unit of Orc boys with the WAAAGH banner, if it does survive, who's going to beat him and take him off an objective? The WAAAGH banner himself during the WAAAGH is going to be, what is he, 5 OC, I believe, by himself? So you have to deal with all that. And that's how this list ends up kind of eroding people. They kill you. They have enough OC left over. I'll tell you what, in this game, it would be a great lesson for you to go back and actually watch how Sean Nayden used his grots to not only do secondaries, but to actually interact with elite enemy units and stop them from doing what they wanted to do. And I think it's behoove of you to go back and actually go and watch that, because that's, instead of me just telling you, you can actually see it happening in real time, and that's a good potential. And that's also why I'm going to get into TTS, so I can actually show you guys stuff like that, because that was a great thing. So Sean Nayden, great job from Team Battle Brothers. We'll show the list one more time, and then I'll take a peep at the chat. If you guys have any questions about this list, throw them at me in case I missed anything. Of course, things on live kind of go over your head sometimes. But I'm a fan of this list, right? The redundancy and threat saturation, the great amount of OC you have, the multiple activations, but they're threatening activations, and the fact that he, as a skilled enough player to do fixed secondaries, to understand, I'm going to deploy here, and most lists are going to give up something that I can kill. That's what it seems like was going on in his head. I don't know that for sure. I don't know all those things he picked, but it kind of seems a common trope, right? Most lists are either bringing enough bring it down points or enough assassinate points, just like we are. So that's an interesting food for thought for the future for us gets. And the one trick thing I wanted to bring up here was the Mega Knobs with the kill saw coming in from Rapid Ingress. He did that in the 5th game that we've seen. Or I really like that. War Boss himself is kind of mega armor is underwhelming, we'll say, per his data sheet. I wish he had -3 AP. Wish maybe he had more damage, maybe more attacks, better data sheet ability, whatever it may be. The one thing he does have is a durability, and he really throws the Mega Knobs over the top for that +1 to hit, because for the fact that they're -3 AP, re-rolling wounds is amazing, and that's something that we really lack in our data sheet, in our index. So great job to Sean Nayden. Whoa! Let's get some War Boss badges and some knob badges in the chat for Sean Nayden in case he ever sees this. Would love to talk to him one time. He's a laid-back git, but he's probably a busy git too, right? So before we go on to the next one, I'm going to take a look at what some of you guys got to say, some questions. Sorry if I'm coughing. I swear I drank a tea. All right. So let me see where you get to. I got the Mega Knobs. There we go, Mr. 2. Whoa! Let's see what we got. Sean Nayden rolled with his list. Legend. Yeah. I really, really love this list. Like we said, he's bringing, first of all, one thing that I want to say too, that you guys can go back when you watch the video, if you do, is the CSM player. Think about this, you guys who are maybe newer players or new to competitive scene. When you see this GT stuff that I'm presenting to you or other channels, you think, wow, those guys must be some top end players. They're all Art of War guys. You hear the CSM players say, I've never played into Orks before. Dude, you definitely want to hear that as an Orc player when you're going into some factions. You want to go, dang, you don't know what my army really, really does off the top of your head. That means you're going to be second guessing what you're doing. That means you're not going to really know the damage output. That's usually when you have the best potential to beat something that's a hard matchup, right? So that's something you can keep in mind, that when you're going to an event, don't be so nervous and, oh, I'm new and such. There's so many rules in 40K as you're watching that game. The CSM player is constantly asking rules. He's even double checking Sean Nayden's rules, which is fine, perfectly fine. But know that that's all normal. And it'll probably make it'll be a good lesson for everybody to take in, that even at the top tables, we're all really just some guys playing this very complex game. Whoa! And that Sean Nayden is a super chill, kind of hippie kind of dad guy. I approve this list 100%. Me too. I'm going to give it some reps, most likely, to be honest. Sean, bringing the Mega Knobs give me hope for my tactic. Yeah, dude. What is your tactic? But yeah, Mega Knobs is freaking dope. They just lack attack. So maybe dope is an overestimation. They're good. They're fun. They solve a problem with our AP. How about that? And their strength. So on the wall, the boys bring 76 chop attacks, 14 plowers, and a melee in the banner melee attacks. You get a dumb amount of attacks, and then with just lethal / sustain on 5s because it's critical. Unbridled Carnage is worded as critical 5s. That means you're going to get lethal and sustain from the Makari, putting that on somebody. Dude, it's obnoxious. Not to mention, if you don't put it on 20-man unit of boys, put it on the knobs. Just be like, all right, knobs, you guys got sustain lethal 5s. Go destroy something. What do you guys think of taking 2 beast bosses? Too worth it or expensive? Do you mean beast bosses on foot, or do you mean beast bosses on Squigasaur? To answer your question, I wouldn't take 2 beast bosses on Squigasaur because the one thing that they lack is damage. In reality, so you end up like, if you can't put Edwapa's kill chop on it, I'm not really a fan of him. But the dudes on foot, no, they're viable with 2-man groups of them. You are kind of paying a tax a little bit for the infantry in a sense, but 2 beast bosses on foot, it's a bit pricey, but you can justify it for sure. Yo, 28 watching. We should have 28 likes. Come on, you get thumbs up. Whoa! Well, if I do a good job, then they'll give me likes, right? That's all it comes down to. I deserve it, then I'll get worth it. Dagger's totally worth it. What I call a dollar store mod. You're funny. I haven't ran 2 yet, but oh, you guys are talking. Okay, give me a question. What do you say? Oh, what's up, Ronan? I run mods, 2 boss, best Squigasaur, and they get focused but can handle it. Just focus, distract while I score. No, yeah, exactly. Sometimes the value in Maz isn't his damage. For the most part, I'll say right now, the value in Maz isn't his damage, is his durability. Yeah, this clutch. Let me see questions. Let's see. I'm always thinking of taking my squig off. Always wreck shop. Hold objective. Intimidate my opponents. Can't wait to get mine. Whoa! And this is what I wanted to cover. I ran Gaz early on. He just too much cost for something that got focused on too quickly. Now, this is important for us, right? What terrain are you playing on? What layout are you playing on? What armies are you playing against? That's the question that this comes into play, right? I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying other people reading this question take it into context. Is he playing against army that can maybe indirect fire Gaz to oblivion, and or in better sense that could put dev wounds into Gaz with shooting and bypass Makari to an extent, right? Are you dealing with something like a lot of Eldar where they're just in a Night Shroud use, you're barely moving up the field with Gaz, like, are you playing at a local hobby shop where you don't have oh, you sound like doo-doo, thanks. You live in a local hobby shop where you don't have the most terrain, we'll say, right? Or you're not playing with the templates, so you can't actually get direct measurements, right? As you see at the tournament level, they have the template, so you can actually pre-measure this is exactly how much Gaz is going to move. Here's his threat range potential. If someone moves to the middle of the table, I can murk you. So it really matters what are you going into, right? But Gaz is dope. It's just matchup dependent. Our metas are all different. What is the best green tide list you've seen so far? No. Okay. Best green tide list I've seen so far. Right off the top of my head, there's been a couple. One, I've seen someone run 60 boys. They ran triple big mechs with the KFF, triple war bosses. Then they wore a big mech and mega, so war boss and mega armor. I think they had on the list in a truck. And then I think they had a beast boss with beast snagga boys in a truck as well, I want to say, to deal with the vehicles and some storm boys or something. That listed pretty well. I think I went 3 and 2. And then another list I've seen that I really appreciated with double battle wagons with 2 Pain bosses with 2 Beast Snaggle Boy bricks of 20. And 2 battle wagons, like I said, and they moved up the field and they murk like that too. Those are 2 of my favorites. Just getting back to 20 years break. Really happy to be playing them again. They're so much fun. Whoa, yeah, Orks are like the most fun faction of all of 40k. Just, you know, I'm biased here probably, but I do have 5 armies as a whole, and I just kind of always came back to Orks, and that's why I made the channel. Oi, boss, you sound like doodle. Get well, bro. Okay, thank you. That's true. Yeah, true. I play against DG. I'm a close quarter map. Okay, well, one, your positioning, pre-measuring with Ghaz is going to be very important. You do actually enjoy and appreciate Makari, so don't let Makari guy die. One thing to keep in mind, right? Let's say Ghaz in the open, they've annihilated his bodyguards. You know, make sure you pre-measure so you can't get grenaded for free from those guys either. But let's say you've done all this and someone shoots at Ghaz and Makari, and you're like, dang, I really don't want Makari to die because I need to take off the wall. I need to pop lethal and sustain. You can choose to take the damage on Ghaz. Choose to take the saving roll on Ghaz and not take the 2-up invuln on Makari. Mind you, Ghaz is going to have to continue to take the saving throws for that phase. Mind you, if Ghaz takes a wound, he's going to keep taking the saving throws till he dies. But in those cases that you do care for Makari's lethal aura, as you see when if you go back and see Sean Nayden's game, he takes a moment to think about it. That's why he was thinking about it. I haven't tried 20 boys with the weird boy. 10-minute 20 boy with the wall banner soon. I recommend doing it. The wall banner is awesome. I've been saying that for a hot minute. Eddie, still doing those walls if you're causing. Yeah, I'm trying to do it with the wall. I probably sound horrible. I don't even know how I sound. Let's get back into these lists real quick because your chats were distracting me, which I like it. So we have Alex Cameron, and then we also have Sam Witt. They were at the Fight for Xmas. This was actually in New Zealand. So a good amount of players, not too many, but but still a good amount of players for a GT. As you can see right here, Leagues of Voltan won, and one of these gets did fight him. So we're gonna go over Alex Cameron's list. We have, oh my goodness, my nose gross. Beastboss on Squigasaur with Ed Wappa's Kill Chaka. I said Chaka. Kill Choppa. Death Killer War Trike with Super Cyborg Body. Hey, post data slate. I don't know if we're gonna get hit, but if we do, don't be surprised if this starts getting used more. Ghazghkull Thraka, Mozrog, Warboss. So again, oh my god, very heavy on the character list. And heavy point saturation here on the list. You got 100, 185, 95, 235, 265. Ooh, that's expensive. But that's kind of where it works at right now. We got a Beast Snaggle Boy, a boys. It's just a 10-man unit of boys. My goodness, that's awesome. I love my boys. 3 trucks, Gretchen, 2 units of Gretchen, 1 2-man unit of Meganabs. This is straight up all you need to do for gas. I see people say, oh, I get the 5-man unit and I get shot. He's so slow. He's so big. You do not need the big unit. Literally, the 2-man unit is there just so when Ghaz gets his charge off, he gets dove wounds, or so that when people get close to you and they throw grenades at you, they can pick up the mega knobs. That's the point. 1 unit of knobs, that's what the 1 warboss is for, and then 3 3-man units of Squig Hog Boys, using them for skirmishes, and then the Storm Boy unit. So this is a bit more of what we're used to, but he went for more character durability. So he decided, I'm not going to invest in my units durability. We're just going to invest in character durability here between the Death Killer War Trike, Beastboss, and the Squigasaur. So let's look at some of his matchups. So we have Fix That Razorback. So Grey Knights. I always talk about on paper, on the stats, what we seen from the faction versus faction. Maybe I'll pull that up real quick again. Grey Knights always hit somewhere like at a 50% or end up beating us sometimes. Why I think that is people don't realize, maybe they haven't played against Grey Knights. They have mostly movement shenanigan tricks and can actually outsee Orks, and they're really good at killing our elite infantry. So if you give them their infantry, they're going to just kill them super quickly. If you put the wrong units into them, they're going to Armor of Contempt and they're going to tank it. And it's one of those things is, do I know what they can do? If I can kind of keep them off the objectives, have utter board control, force them to come up to me, and then kill them. Which is most likely, sorry, what happened here? I didn't put that up. So we got Brotherhood Chaplain, Brotherhood Librarian, Brotherhood Tech Marine, and a Brotherhood Tech Marine. Okay. We have a Justia Terminator, a big Terminator brick, and a Terminator brick. This is pretty expensive, 420 points. So you can see 1,000 points to Terminators already. Strike Squad, and Scepter. Purgation Squad is what I'm talking about. They have the ability to murder and punish your infantry, and then I'll raise your back. I don't really know what the point of that was. And the Cladius Assassin. I don't know if they have an ability that I'm not aware of anymore that they could do something with this, but not that I'm aware of it. You know, maybe he just wanted some shooting and he was having some pizzazz. I don't see Grey Knight as like a very challenging, like, meta thing we have to worry about. It's really up to you Orc players to know what they can do, and then just retain board control and have proper counter charges and tag them up. They can move away, right? One thing they can do is Grey Knights. I'm about to go into this list, but one thing Grey Knights can do is they can charge into you, touch you, and then use the strat to eventually fall back up into their objective as a reactive measure. That's why it's important you have the right units that are actually there to actually kill them. Also, in keeping them away from going back onto the objectives with all of their being pulled off the table and pulled back on. That's why I said the movement and the placement of your battles matters more than the actual combat in that matchup. So now his second matchup was Astra Militarum, Death Court Marshal, Gaunt's Ghost. I always joked about this. You know, in some matchups, it's actually pretty useful because it can infiltrate and do all these different shenanigans, all these different profiles. But for Orcs, we eat that kind of unit up. Lord Invocatus, Platoon Squad, Primaris Siger, oh my goodness, Regimental Preacher, and Ironhand Straken. Okay, Straken, I see you, boy. Catachans for that. I think they get the Scout. I should check again, but I believe they do. Deathcore Krieg. Ooh. Infantry Squad, Avengers Fighter. What the heck? I don't know. I didn't notice that the first time. That's funny. Basculus, Scout Sentinel. Okay, so he brought a lot of Scout. Okay, this guy is looking for great board control too, which I can appreciate this with the Guard army. I do own a full Tempestus Scion army, so I do like Guard. I do like the, you know their rules a little bit here and there. The thing is, Strachan is here to assist the Catachan jungle fighters, possibly do secondaries if I got to clear someone off the middle objective early, tie someone up, get into a skirmish. Strachan kind of deal with that. And the unit can regen, not that he does. But all of these units between the battle line and those scout dudes get to regen. The one thing is that Orcs don't have an issue with board control and retaining it into this kind of guard list where you just have a lot of kind of cheap trash. You're not killing anything reliably, right? You're really hoping that these Basilisk go off with the Scout Sentinels looking at you, and that you can tank it as a guard player. Sorry, that they can't take it as a guard player. You know, Lord Solar helps you a little bit in that matchup, and like I said, Gaunt's Ghost can come up with the Catachans, but if you don't have proper punishing units, you can't punish the Orcs for giving away free charges, right? If an army, like some Space Marine armies, they can punish you. If they give you a free turn one charge, you take it with too much of an expensive unit, they can kill you and pick up that unit. Guard can't necessarily always do that, and you might end up retaining those and all of that board. And as you're killing them, they're coming back on the table further and further back and getting left in their deployment zone. So it is what it is, but you know, Guard is actually a very hard matchup. I would like to see what the mission was, but he got 100 points in that matchup. 100. So great job by Cameron. Let's see at this next matchup real quick. Pick it up because I got too distracted by you gets. Hold on, I'm gonna go here. All that sneezing. All right. So his next matchup. Oh, I love this. Was the World Eaters. So World Eaters are one of those armies that have, we'll just call it a skew as a whole in a weird way. So we got Angron, Karn, Lord Avocado, World Eaters with Master of Indirect Combat. That's what I call a Master of Executions, because he essentially just ignores whatever all the rules of the 5 phase are, and he just fights and he just murders everybody. So, Master of Indirect Combat. We had Jackals, Corn Berserkers. So, the 20-man unit right here is just for the Master of Executioners, most likely, because you got to keep him alive so you can deliver him. And Karn the Betrayer gets a 5-man unit. Exalted 8-bound. Well, oh, okay. I haven't seen someone use Terminators, to be honest. I don't think it's the most effective unit, but whatever. He has a Predator Annihilator and Rhinos. I would say just right off the bat, I'm not sure what he was doing here, but some Brigands would probably be more helpful, or just more units as a whole. I mean, even their, yeah, whatever. And then 2 Rhinos, most likely because 1, you need Massive Executions, and then 1 for Karn. Sorry. Oh my God, it came out over. So, for Orcs, we actually can deal with World Eaters because fight and death. Fight and death actually matters a lot. They're very, very elite. When they run into you and kill you, they're not used to the fact that you're dragging them down with you. They do have the ability to initiate into orcs, but us having more activations, more units to kind of move block them with does bother them, right? We can say, hey, most orc players on the casual level might make the mistake of, or even at the top level, make the mistake of, I'm going to turn 2 wall right away and try to just drag you guys down with me. If that's the case, there's a chance that the World Eater player can use the rhinos to kind of absorb the wall. Then they disembark and they countercharge you. And even though you have the 5-up invuln, they can actually kill you enough because they have great melee potential because they can get sustained and plus on the wound and blah, blah, blah. And then Angron keep coming back. So like a smart World Leaders player will throw this into you to try to kill you and tie you up or whatever, and then hope that he gets him back right away because, you know, that would be an issue for us as we run out of stuff to kill him with. But that being said, if you can soak up what they want their first charges off, because the thing is they get the initiative on us if a World Leaders player is playing. They can get the initiative off on us. The thing is we can choose what they get the initiative off a lot of the time. And then we get the counter charges off. Or if we have to give them something, let's say that you know, this Annihilator popped a truck, so something has to get killed. You can choose, hey, I guess this 5-man unit of knobs is in a fighting death, boy, take it down. That wasn't on this list. On this list, it was a 10-man unit of knobs. But like a 10-man unit of knobs is the abomination to the World Eater's Master of Execution. Sure, it might be a straight up trade. You might trade those berserkers for that Master of Executioner when you fight death with your knobs, but ultimately you're killing him, you're killing the Zerkers, and then you're dealing with his biggest unit that he can choose to deal with you. In this matchup as well, you got to make sure that you don't let them turn one kind of stuff you too far all the time as your deployment zone as an orc. Sometimes they'll let you know, like, I could turn one charge you. In reality, he just wants you to stay so far back that he gets to kind of have board control and start playing the game right away, and stage pretty well. So this isn't the most competitive World Eaters list, but we'll see more World Eaters lists as we go on. I just wanted to give my thoughts on as a whole. But you can see, even though it wasn't the most competitive World Eaters list, 68-point win. When you're talking about World Eaters into orcs, yeah, we do have the advantage because we have more activations, we have more ways to kill them, we have that strap. But they give us a weird kind of matchup because they can put us on the back foot. They can get the initiative on us. They charge and they can do everything we can do, but to do the whole game. So for this, Death Guard. So another one of our hard matchups. So you can see he's already gone through some good matchups, some hard matchups. So he had to face it all. He had to deal with fighting. He had to deal with shooting. I really appreciate him. Bop, bop, bop. So that being said, Death Guard. We have a Death Guard Demon Prince with wings. I think he can give battle shock and he gets dev wounds with his Hellforged weapon when he charges. The Lord of Violence, he gets reroll wounds and he gets +1 to hit if he's combined with if a unit has blast on their weapons and he's in a unit and that unit is looking at the unit that a blast weapon is targeting, that blast weapon gets +1 to hit and ignores cover. It's a weird thing, but he essentially, he's supposed to be like a siege master or like an engine master. So he's supposed to be kind of helping vehicles and blast weapons at the same time as whatever unit he's in. That's what he does, though. Mortarion, the Tallyman, Typhus. Typhus is great because he can kind of like snipe on load operatives with his he has like an ability like a kind of like a plague fly, I believe, kind of thing, or whatever he's trying to do is he has like a psychic power type thing, but it's a dash sheet ability where he could put mortal wounds into certain units that he chooses, and he'll choose like a lone op for that. So it's pretty cool. 10-man unit of Plague Marines, Hellbrew, Deshral, Termes, Bloat Drones. These guys are, I think, pretty awesome for Death Guard because they're one of the only fast units to run up there and give contagion, and most armies don't like to deal with them because of their durability. Then we have 2 units of Plague Burst Crawlers and a Poxwalker unit. I wouldn't call it, I don't know if this is a new type of meta that I've seen, but from what I'm familiar with, the Rhino Rush with Brigand meta is one way. Mortarion with a bunch of Plague Burst Crawlers is another way, which is what this way is kind of more leaning into. And all the drones, right? So Mortarion could be used either to come forward or he can be used to support these Plague Burst Crawlers and shooting. But as you see with the orc list we had, you can see that this guy doesn't have a lot of units to actually run up and play the mission in the mid table. He's going to have to throw Morty up there either early or at some point because these drones, what would typically die slowly and take a while to kill, orcs actually have the tools to murder these guys once they close a distance on you, even when they get within contagion range. So that was still pretty cool that he kind of handled that with the 90-point win. And then last but not least, These world eaters are difficult for the most part. Death Guard could sorry world eaters. Death Guard, well, both kind of, but Death Guard could be difficult as we've seen in our looking at the stats. So last but certainly not least, he fought Iron Storm with the Ultra Smurfs. So we got Chaplain and Terminator armor with the flesh is weak. So I think they give him a Physical Pain. I kind of like that. It's cute. Another Chaplain and Terminator armor. Tech Marine with Adaptive on Messiah. Another Tech Marine with targeting array. Infiltrator, Scout. Yep. A Terminator squad. So here's the one little trick. What is this kind of Terminator squad? Power Fist and Stormbolters. Then we have another Terminator squad with Power Fist and Stormbolter for the Cyclone missiles. Another Terminator squad. So he brought 3 of these kind of small units. That's interesting. Oh, because he's throwing them in Land Raiders, duh. He put a one in the Land Raider with the Godhammer Last Cannon, and the second one is again later with the Redeemer, which is with the Flamestorm Cannon, and then 2 Whirlwinds for indirect. So it is a bit different. He's definitely utilizing the fact that the Land Raiders can run up the table and deliver the Terminator squads and benefit from the Tech Marines shooting potential, and they're helping them stay alive a little bit. Their buffs to their shooting potential, and then the Infiltrators to make that room so the Land Raider can actually go up there, as well as the Scouts. So the Land Raiders can get up there too. So the Terminators are doing most of the work here. Which into Orks, you're getting rucked, right? Because a bunch of Terminators that don't have Storm Shields are actually running up into the middle of the table to Land Raiders. Orks are all over that, especially if you're bringing something like a 10-man unit of knobs. You're getting that charge off. You're killing the Terminator unit, even if they fight in death, whatever. But you're like automatically deleting that one Terminator blob, not for the fact of everything else you have to do. So great job to Alex Cameron. 2 100s, a 90, getting second place. I appreciate it. I love it. I can see you win a little bit more heavy and some of these characters with their cost and their value. And the Death Killer Wartrike, I bet you was a quite interesting tech piece to kind of play the far objective, make people commit over assets into killing them or not enough and running out of activations to kill them. Something like this, right? You would think these Terminators or the Space Marine player would think, I'm going to kill the Death Killer Wartrike easily. They might, but it might just cost the Land Raider and the whole Terminator's activation to kill that 195 point dude with maybe the bikers, right? So he didn't bring bikers, is what the other thing I was going to point out earlier, is that he actually didn't end up bringing bikers. So it was just the 95 point unit. So that's very interesting that he brought a Death Killer Wartrike without any bikers. So if anybody's watching this and you're wondering, could you do that? Looks like you could, because that's what he did. Very cool. So I'm going to look at the chat real quick before I look at this last list. Oh my goodness, sorry. Because I've been going on a rant. So what am I making you guys look at? That's a hideous thing to look at. So let me look at what the chat guys to say. Yeah, let me see. I haven't seen you before, Dark Jaw. I'm making a Squig army. 1 Maz, 3 Warboss Squigasaurs, 3 Squighog boys, 6 led by a Nama Smash Squig. I want more Squig, Hunter Race, Snaggas, and Warboss with attack Squigs. Warboss with attack Squig plus knobs. So are you asking me what you should get on top of that? One thing I would say is Squig Army is awesome, very thematic. Everybody loves Squigs. They're a newer model. But one thing to keep in mind is there is a chance that the 3 of the 4 of the main units you mentioned between Maz, Squighog boys, and the knob on Smash Squig those Squigs might actually take a point increase coming up here in the data slate. So keep that in mind. So don't get discouraged. Your army will still be cool. Still stick to it. Just know that when it's happening, you might end up costing more things than you have. The one thing I would say is, yes, you might want to get a war boss with knobs, because one thing or maybe even mega knobs with the war boss if you want to play that way, whatever. The one thing you're going to be missing between everything you mentioned here is you don't have AP. The one thing I would also say is the Hunter rigs / kill rigs are cool, but if you play in a meta of Eldar / Space Marines, they might be able to pop these a little too quick, so it might lead to some feel bad moments. But that doesn't mean you can't run them, because kill rigs are dope, and they have good abilities and such. Multi-phase unit I always appreciate. And then Beast Nagas themselves, let's say you put 20 in a Pain Boss and a Hunter rig, you could run that too. So all of those are viable, very fun. Don't be discouraged to run it. Just letting you know, as fellow war boss, that might go up in points. We can choose to take save on Ghaz instead of Makari. Yes, Clip, because they're both characters. You can see that in the game with Sean Nayden that he chooses to do that, and that's because he didn't want to lose Makari because he understood he needed that lethal / sustainability. Whoa, let's go, Edwin Cho. I tried 20 blah blah boys with the weird boy. The unit has a hard time finding a place to land. That's probably why Sean Nayden put them in a battle wagon, bro. To be honest, because the battle wagon, and then you get to disembark. You move him, he chills there, he stages. Either you blow him up and they disembark where you need them, or they get out those 3 and then move up their 6 plus follow me, lad. So it's an 8. So essentially, you're going from the wagon 11, and then you get to do your charge. So don't sleep on it. That wagon makes it the distance. So what about Squigasaur / gargantuous Squigasaur? So a gargantuous Squigasaur is awesome. Nothing about the Squigasaur makes him stand out to me. Like just a straight Squigasaur by himself doesn't do anything too impressive to me, but he's fun. Put some burner boys or whatever you want to do. It's all good in the hood, Charlie Brown. Oh, and then we have a super chat. Oh, whoa, let's go. Ooh. So we got a super chat. He goes, how do we crump the space wolves? So we actually have a couple of videos on how to merc those detachments, and David, the co-host, is actually a space wolf player, and we have space wolf players in our area, so there is some stuff brought into that. But as a whole, right, one, Space Marines, that as you can see them, they run out of momentum as a whole, as a faction. So the quicker that we can get to their scoring units, the quicker that we can stop them from playing the game any further. One way, right? So as they drop the Inceptors, don't let the Inceptors get more activations. Actually prioritize them and go, okay, I'm going to save a AP for tank shock here. I'm going to countercharge him with this unit and stage him. If I can't screen this, I have to go kill them. Another thing to do to keep in mind is don't give them good charges once they disembark the things in your units. So have stuff set up to either you can heroic with them. Let's say you have a break of Squigasaur boys or a Ghaz. Oh, you want to pop me in and run them to my knobs? Well, I can do that. Another thing is always have CP in the bank for fight on death. Space Wolf / combat armies hate that. They want to run into you and get a nice pop you off the table. You fight in death, you take a chunk out of them. They hate that. And then as a whole, move blocking, right? A lot of these Thunderwolf cavalry units, they're freaking huge with their bases. Take your Grots or your Storm Boys, get in there, charge the Thunderwolves so that some of their bases or their characters, because their characters benefit from the charging ability from their Thunderwolf Cav. So the Thunderwolf Cav give +1 damage when they charge. The characters are going to enjoy those benefits. Their Thunderhammer's going to get up to 3, blah, blah, blah. What you want to do is take your Grots, take your Storm Boys, take your Bikers, whatever it may be, tag those units so they have to pile into that unit, and then take your Knobs, your Ghaz, your Maz, whatever you're choosing to kill Thunderwolf, and charge them on the opposite side of that if you can help it. That means the characters can't fight your actual killing unit, and there's a chance you can stay alive and get multiple activations. So kill their scoring units. Understand that you can move block them pretty well because you can move through terrain, and for the most part, their punching units can't. And if they do have punching units, let's say they run Ragnar because he's a beat stick, then you prepare to fight in death. So really, CP management is very important for Orks. I can't overestimate that pretty much. Don't waste your CP. Because all the CP answers a lot of these matchups for fighting models. But back to you guys, and I appreciate you get that's a mighty kind super chat. Could always make one. I have 2 custom gargantuan Squigasaurs. Can see them on the WAAAGH Discord for inspiration. Feel free to DM me the question. Gargantuan Squigasaurs are freaking awesome, just so you know. And his are beautiful. Can I include a Grotmist Git, or would people complain? At a tournament, you cannot use the Grotmist Git. If you're to play with your friends or whatever it may be, just ask him. He's pretty powerful. So if they have a power formula, they might met you. They might help you. We've done Legends videos here, so I'm never against Legends. I probably do a bat rep with him. You know, sorry. And any other Legends models and stuff for fun. But the point is, you can use them. Just ask first. In tournaments, you can't allow them. Yeah, normal games, you can't. When is the next bat on status slate? I think in like a month or less. I'm fine with an increase. I just really like Squigs. Exactly, dude. Just do what you love. Whoa! I hope that answered your question. You get. All right, guys. And always ask me questions all the time. I like answering questions that I can. Because we're all in this. No, I'm just kidding. Don't leave. Just because I started singing that. All right, so let's take a look at Sam Witt's 5th place condition. So we have Beastboss on Squigasaur with Ed Wappa's Kill Chopper, Captain Badrug, So we've seen this on every list we've seen, guys. We've actually seen the Beastboss and Squigasaur make a resurgence, along with Ghaz by his side and or Mozrog Skragbad. Captain Badrock finally made it back to the showing. Not Mozrog, sorry, I meant Captain Badrock made it back to the showing. Mozrog Skragbad, Nabon smashes Squig. I think, like I always say, but everybody has their own preference. I prefer Adwepas on this guy. 2 war bosses, love it. 1, 2 10-man units of Beast Snagga boys. So as you can see here, he's using them as they just go fight with themselves. They get up to strength 6. You could appreciate it. They have 2 OC. Sometimes enemies just don't commit enough shooting into killing them either. 4 trucks, Defcopter, Flash Skits, Gretchen, 2 knobs, a big brick of Squighog boys, and 2 storm boys. Like I said, the one thing that I appreciate more is put the Nama Smash Squig with Edwab Skill Chopper in this brick. Makes him harder to kind of take off the table. Like, I mean, the enhancement to take off the table, but it is what it is. And again, we see the smaller scalpels, 2 5-man units of Nabu Power Claw. So that might be a way to go. And only 1 unit of Gretchen. I don't love that. I'd like to hear what he thinks about Defcopters. All I hear good things about them. I stay away from them because I am already usually bringing Assassinate as something that I can give away. I'm usually trying not to give away more with Bring It Down with Coptas. So it is what it is, but I think they're pretty dope. So this list, you can see follow a theme here, guys. A lot of durability. Beast Boss are coming back. Knobs for small activations that have a giant scalpel unit, but we've seen that used also. So keep that in mind as we go through this last matchup real quick and see how this get did. So again, we have World Eaters. Vanilla is just a meta chaser. So we have Angron, Karn the Betrayer, Lord Avocatus, World Eaters, Lordon Juggernaut with the favorite of Corn. So it's funny because this guy can like go in a unit, but it makes no sense because he's cavalry. So favorite of Corn just gives him like he has to free roll the corn dice. Master of Indirect Combat. That's what he's called now. If you go to any other channel, that's what you're gonna call him. Master of Indirect Combat. If you don't know why, his rules are just obnoxious. He gets to do everything in the game when it comes to fighting, other than fighting death for free. He actually has to roll for that. So then we have a Jackal, Cordon the Berserkers. That's when you ever see a 10-man unit, know that it's literally just to escort the Master of Executions. Another Corn Berserker unit, 2 units of Rhinos, a unit of 8-bound. Keep in mind, this unit of 8-bound is a sleeper because what it actually gives you is an aura, 6-inch aura, reroll once to wound. So they're offensively used, but also they're kind of used to debuff themselves and everybody around them. The Exalted 8-bound and then another 8-bound unit. Like we talked about again with Orks going into these guys, is he's paying for all these characters to enhance those units that he's in and to get up the field. But in reality, he has very minor activations with not too much damage. He has to commit like an entire unit to one of your Orc units, and as soon as you do a fight and death or you survive for some reason and you fight back, it sucks for him. Throwing your bomb squigs, like we see in that guy had 2 bombs. He had a unit Squighog boys. Throw a bomb squig into one of these 8-bound units or whatever because you don't have to see them. Oh, they hate that. They're like, oh god. They do have feel no pain and stuff to keep in mind, but they still hate it when they lose even one guy. That's like 6 attacks for them. So World Eaters are challenging, but they're not like a devastating matchup for us. Let's look into his second matchup. Oh wait, sorry, that was the second matchup. Brain fart. Oh wait, no, it wasn't. That was this. You almost got me, but then I realized this is this guy's name is a different name. So, but it looks like a very similar list. We talked about so the world. So Angron, Lord Invocatus again. But the difference here, and I can explain this, is World Eaters, Demon Prince. I believe either him or the one with the wings, but one of them gives a aura of a 4-up invuln from 6 inches. And then the Helm of Brazen Ire gives them reduce or half damage and a 2-up armor save. So he becomes like a B6 / durable, and you can like stage him behind terrain. Jackal unit, a big Zerker unit, another big Zerker unit, 2 8-bounds, an Exalted, and then Chaos Spawn. These Chaos Spawn, I think they can get up to like a 4-up Feel No Pain. I believe so. That's the one cool thing they have. And they're like a cheap unit. Keep in mind, these guys, this unit army doesn't have anything that's like dirt cheap besides this spawn. It's like the cheapest thing they have, and it's just 2 models. So it's not like Grots where they can like beat you on an objective and stuff. They're just like there. And that's something they like. Like I said, they just don't get enough activations to beat Orcs. So let's see, Tyler King, the next one. Ooh, and like we said, we were going to talk about Adeptus Custodes. We can get some conversation about Adeptus Custodes. And you guys can ask me questions too if you're not sure why. Sorry to clean my ugly face. Okay, so we got Adeptus Custodes. We have the Blade Champion, Cesar Chagin Valores, Custodian Guard, Prosecutors, Alaris Terminators, Warden, Caladius Assassin, Canis Rex. Okay. So weird that we brought Canis Rex. We see this. One thing I'll just say right off the bat is the one unit that can be interesting for us that we have to deal with Wardens. They can get the Feel No Pain one phase, not one turn if you're playing into them. And then they get the Blade Champion, so they can be a problematic unit sometimes. The Terminators, because they have like rerolls against characters, even their small alarms fire can surprisingly kind of devastate some Orc units. And then Custodes as a whole, between all their strats and everything, you do have to play intelligently, tagging certain models so they can't get all their attacks in, getting the initiative off on them, stuff like that. But Orcs can deal with Custodes. It really does come down to how you play it. But this Canis Rex was probably not helpful in the Orc matchup because typically Custodes actually do better if they just have more Custodes when they're dealing with Orcs. And then did I just click that or did I click the same thing twice? No, okay. The fourth matchup is again Space Marines, Iron Storm. So you got Chappie, Terminator, Chappie again, and this looks like the same Space Marine player that he had to deal with. Or at least not the same one, but a same list, right? I don't think those guys were the same ones. Let me see, look at these again. Yeah, these are the same ones. And I want to go back. Did the same? Is it the same night? It was Craig Stewart? Did they both play Craig Stewart? That doesn't make sense. Oh, they did the last game. So he did end up playing him again. Which is interesting because he had already lost. So I don't know how that happened, but hey, I guess he was just scoring very high and he had to play into both these guys. So they both had to play into that same guy. We talked about that, so I'll just skip over that because this is what I wanted to talk about. The Leagues of Voltan. So this is actually the guy who won the tournament, Sean Sullivan. So Leagues of Voltan are an army that's doing good into us. And I think as quickly that we go, not quickly, but we talk about it a little bit and why that may be and what you kind of need to look out for them to do as a mistake so that we could beat them. So one, he has the Iron Hero Champion and he has the Call. So the Iron Hero Champion, he just like gives a unit the ability to D-strike. He himself is all right. And then the Call gives lethal to the unit he's in, and he can choose to give another token, judgment token. So we have the Hearthguard Warriors. They're one cheap battle line unit. 1, 2, 3, 4. So Orcs as a whole, we do struggle sometimes to deal with transports, and Sagitar have that weird data sheet where they're not enough points for bring it down because they're only 9 wounds, yet they're 10 toughness, so they get over that threshold to kind of deal with us. They can get up the board quickly and kind of delay us and slow us down, and they have a good amount of firepower, and some of that is actually pretty effective for our transports. Then we have the Broken Thunder King. Right here to keep in mind, though, they have 2 different profiles. We have a bolt cannon version right here, but there's only 3 of them in the small unit. And then the other one has the Graviton blast cannon. We have Setonian Berserkers, 2 Setonian Berserkers, so 2 melee dudes. Not all lists bring the Berserkers. Maybe now a little bit more often, but generally they don't always bring them. He has 2 units of Hearthguard, but keep this in mind, right? One has the plasma grenade / concussant gauntlet and the grenade launchers. And like I said, the concussion gauntlets, which is their melee weapon. And then the other one actually bought the Volkite Disintegrator, which is their devastating wound profile. And they brought the Plasma Blade Gauntlet, which is more attacks at strength 6, but only 1 damage. So you can see one might have been going for, I'm not sure which character is put there, but keep that in mind. They have different profiles. So they're looking to do different things with each one of these units. So the person wants to just plug and playing for redundancy. He had an idea of what he was trying to do, which means because they can come in from strategic reserve, he's trying to choose what he's going to interact with. He has a land fortress, so that's on top of all of Sagitar. So he was prepared to give up a certain degree of bring it down, but he wouldn't give up bring it down and assassinate, right? Keep that in mind. right? When Sean Nayden picked his list, he's looking for that too. Ooh, am I going to bring it down here? Maybe, I don't know. So yeah, and then we have the Pioneers. These are their bikers that come on and off the field. So like I say, into Orks, because we don't know what the mission was, but he did end up losing this one, 87. But look what this Leagues of Voltan player got, 91. So a 3-point win, that could be a draw, a card draw, that could be a lucky dice roll. Not saying luck won him this at all, by no means. I'm just saying when you lose or win a game within like a 5-10 point margin, every top player knows, like, man, that was a close game. It could have gone either way. We both played excellently. So both of them played excellently. Great job by Sam Witt, right? But Leagues of Voltan, we don't know what the mission is, but both of them scored pretty well. Which tells me that he was actually keeping his distance and pre-measuring Orks a lot and laying them back while continuously scoring as he could, at least early in the game. And then as if he did start to die, that he continuously kept scoring. And Sam too. So both of them did a great job. I don't know what the missions were, but that would have been great information to have. But Leagues of Voltan, because they have the ability to put devastating wounds into some of our stuff, the fact that they actually do have that odd high volume of medium strength and just volume of small arms fire. Plus, they have some somewhat reliable high damage weapons too. And they like to get into that range of 24 inches. The issue for them is you as an Ork player need to look at Leagues of Voltan when the player's setting up and say, where have you messed up that I can come touch you, start pressuring you early, start actually try to beat them in the deployment setup as well. They don't like to be cornered. And when you're coming up the table, it might be who of you, depending on what your build is, to actually come up the sides of the table. And if they're trying to check you with that land fortress, take off the side so they can't come in from the sides on and off with their Pioneers. And kill what they're trying to use to activate their secondaries in the middle if they're doing a fixed. But Leagues of Voltan are something that they're hard for us, but we have the tools. But it does come up to Leagues of Voltan, someone making mistakes of getting too close too early and us being able to pressure them and kill them at a punishing rate, screening them off the field and such, which is really really important. So that being said, what can we learn? What have we looked at? Ghaz is still great. Still good how you can use them. People are bringing Beastboss, Maz, compounding that effect. The knob with wall banner for Great OC is interesting. Where the Orks and the Flash gets fallen off slightly. We're not seeing them as used, but this wasn't a very active weekend. So just keep that in mind as we go forward. So where are going to be in the future? I see us looking a little bit more into the Death Killer War Trike. We might look at the Mega Knobs a little more, and we might start bringing fixed secondaries more. Who knows? So that's something for us as an Ork community to keep in mind. If there's any questions left in the chat before you leave them now, before we sign off, but just know, guys, we come out with WAAAGH Wednesdays every Wednesdays, and then every Friday we do a live stream as well. And then on top of that, we get together and we're going to do hobby streams and stuff as well. So if you're new here, you can leave a like or you could join so you could be a part of this more often. Join our Discord. Let us know what you want to see. We appreciate you. And we're still doing the raffle at the end of the month for the Ork box set and also the Beastboss as Maz model as for the second place drawing too. So boom, I appreciate you gets. But remember, one thing to keep in mind is don't cross our wall because we knock your teeth out. Whoa!